And welcome back to For Such a Time as This, the place where there is no such thing as a silent witness. We are back on YouTube, and we're asking to like this station, subscribe to it, and also put likes. It will help out with the spreading of our material. The text we'll be dealing with in this video comes from 2 Samuel 6:14. 2 Samuel 6, let's start at verse 14. And David danced before the Lord with all his might, and David was wearing a linen ephod. As the ark of the Lord came into the city of David, verse 16, Michal, the daughter of Saul, looked out of the window and saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, and she despised. She despised him in her heart. Dropped down to 20, and David returned to bless his household. But Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, how the king of Israel honored himself today, uncovering himself today before the eyes of his servants, female servants, and one of the vulgar fellows shamelessly uncovers himself. She is criticizing David. She's criticizing David for how David chose to celebrate and to worship. Very clear, very important. This is going to be the crux of our video. She attacks him. How the king of Israel honored himself today, mockingly uncovering himself today before the eyes of his servants, female servants. She mocks him, but David comes back. David said to Michal, it was before the Lord who chose me above your father and above all his house to appoint me as prince, typo there, prince over Israel, the people of the Lord. And I will celebrate before the Lord. I will make myself yet more contemptible to this. David basically comes back at her and says, I refuse to let you judge me, for I choose to worship before the Lord. There's nothing inherently wrong or sinful for what I've done. I've danced. I chose to celebrate in my way. And he excoriates Michal, excoriates her, and says, I will not let you dictate to me how I worship. And as you can, those of you who know the story know that her womb was closed and she never bore David any children. Nowadays, 2025, we in Christendom, I've noticed this in dealing and moving amongst various faith traditions, that we could sometimes get very judgmental and very critical of how others worship. Look, if it's in the scriptures, yeah. If it's not in the scriptures, freedom. Freedom. Todd Friel, his YouTube channel, Wretched, actually has Voddie Baucham discussing this very text. And I guess Voddie Baucham, who's done and said a lot of good things in the past, he doesn't like expressive worship. And to Friel's credit, he presses him on this verse. Here we go.
Okay. All right. Let's do 2 Samuel 6:14. David was dancing before the Lord with all his might, and David was wearing a linen ephod. Go.
When you dance in church, wear linen.
Thanks for making the point. All right. Therefore, David danced in church. Dancing in church is biblical. Can I use this for a text?
Sure.
So you don't have a problem with dancing in the church?
I do.
But this verse says David danced.
You can use whatever you want to use, right?
All right, well, tell me why.
But first of all, David wasn't in church.
Okay, fair enough.
That's
but he did it in worship.
David wasn't in church.
He was worshiping the Lord.
Yeah.
Very excited about the ark.
He was very excited about the ark.
Yes.
Yes. We don't have an ark.
Well, okay.
We don't have a king.
But I could do that with any verse.
We don't have it. Right. But what I'm saying is that when we read this, we have to read this text in its historical context,
all right,
in order to understand what's happening here.
Okay,
right?
So
because the other thing is this: narrative is not normative.
Correct.
It's a very important principle of exegesis. Narrative is not normative. Just because something happened doesn't mean that it's supposed to happen normatively.
But there's shadings on that. You know that. Supposed to versus can happen.
Yeah.
So how's about if I say to you, okay, fine, Voddie, I give you your context.
Can I dance in church? Yes.
I'd kind of like to see that. Would you maybe just...
That's more akin to what's happening there. An emotional, sort of outburst in response to a circumstance, as opposed to here's how we're going to organize our worship.
Fair enough, but there is explicit and implicit. Yeah. So could I not use this as an implicit text to say, look, it's not a sin to celebrate and worship the Lord by moving your body?
Sure.
Therefore, this verse still gives me permission to do that, not commanded.
Not when you went to the therefore, not when you...
Why not?
You were okay till the therefore.
Well, how do you apply it then?
Well, because here's the thing. Why do we want to do this? Why do we want to make this a normal activity for us?
I wasn't saying to make it's commanded. I'm saying this verse gives us permission to express ourselves in joyful worship to the Lord by busting a move.
You could do it.
It's not commanded, but it gives me permission.
You could do it.
You're humoring me now.
At our church, New Hope Community Church in Palatine, Illinois, I don't know if you've ever seen someone dancing down the aisles. And there's this one young man who likes to do it on the side, and we don't discourage him. But while I can say that's not our normal mode of operation, I'm not going to go to the scriptures and try to make a scriptural argument. And here's the thing. I'm not sure he made a scriptural argument. He just said, can't do it. Not supposed to do it. And I think it's very dangerous when we begin to assert things that the scriptures don't assert. And we start to put prohibitions where those prohibitions aren't found in scripture. I've seen some other stuff with Voddie on this issue, and I'm not sure he makes a biblical argument against it, unless there's some videos I haven't seen. But it is dangerous when we start to put prohibitions where those prohibitions aren't found in scriptures. That's what the Pharisees did. And that's what good, well-meaning men do often. We have to give freedom where scripture gives freedom. Otherwise, problem. Dare I say, Pharisaical.
For such a time as this,